Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. This is a true honor and a pleasure.
Well, thank you.
Um,
Thank you. I'm in my car right
I
now in
have to,
LA, so
I
this is what
know.
LA this is such an LA interview. It's like no one leaves their cars. Sorry.
So before you get into any accident, no, I'm sorry. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. Um,
Seriously.
is this something though, Robert, where you needed to tell the story of the zombies that people didn't have out there, and then you got through Colin and Rod and all of them together, or is it something that they searched you out to do this?
Well, I this was like a this just came up totally organically. It was basically when you sit around and say what do I want to work on, whether it's an album, going on the road, making in my case, I've kind of focused a lot on filmmaking. Um, this just came up naturally. It was like I really want to make a documentary. I've never made a doc. And if I'm going to make one, I want to make it on someone or something or something that I feel very passionate about. And music would be one of those subjects.
Of course.
And then go within that, a band, an artist that you feel close to in terms of your own just excitement about their music, the Zombies. This just came up in conversation with a friend of mine who knew had a relationship with people close to the band. And I just said if I could make one music doc, I'd want to make the Zombies doc. And he said, well, let me see if I can bridge your world and their world and see if we can make that happen. And it just kind of there was a lot of just quick like conversation led to, oh my God, we're making this movie. That was my perspective. And I know Colin and Rod were on the other end of the Zoom. So we like the way we are meeting right now. So
Well, so it wasn't just an excuse for you to want to record Caroline Goodbye with Colin. Like that was.
that was so cool. That was totally all of it's the way or when they do, it's always really nice when things happen naturally. When you bump into someone you haven't seen forever and you grab dinner and that leads to when those things in life happen, it's always such a breath of fresh air. And that's what I even that moment getting to play the song with Colin at the end of the film just happened naturally. So because he said pick up the guitar and join me, I was hoping he would play because I heard it was so rare to see Colin Blunstone play guitar. So I tried to inspire that moment, and then it led to me picking up guitar. But yeah, this was getting to live out those musical fantasies of a collaboration. And I'm just so thrilled that people like the film.
Well, again, there is so much history to say, and a lot of people know. Now, Colin, I think the most interesting thing to me in all of it was the fact that you were kind of against the idea of calling the band the Zombies in originally.
Well, I suppose I was really, but I didn't have a better alternative. I'd come up with, to my embarrassment, I'd come up with the second name. The Zombies was the third name. And I came up with Sundowners, which was a Richard Mitchum, a Robert Mitchum song,
Yeah.
film, and really that title for the band only lasted a very short time. So when someone came up with the idea of the Zombies, I couldn't really protest too much, but I didn't really know what a zombie was. I hadn't got the slightest idea. But it was a catchy name, and it just caught on. So I probably was the least keen in the band, but I tried to keep fairly quiet about it. Having just disgraced myself with the Sundowners, anything would be better than that, to be honest.
Well, you all seem as such humble people. And so I don't imagine that there's parts of you that seem to think like, oh, I need to wonder if people think about my career this way or this way, the other thing. But I always found it very interesting that in the discussion of like the greatest covers of all time, the example you'd always get would be Hendrix doing Dylan's All on the Watchtower, or more modern times, Johnny Cash doing Nine Inch Nails' Hurt. But I always felt that the Zombies version of Summertime may be one of the greatest things ever recorded. Are there parts of you that
Totally.
that if there was something that we wish people could get more of that information out there, it would be like, not that I need the recognition that we did that, but it's kind of like there's a part of me that's like, I want to be recognized for something like that.
Well, of course, it would be lovely to be recognized for something like that. And thank you very much for your compliment on that. And it intrigues me because Ron and I were 18 years old when we recorded that. So it's an interesting phenomenon, really, that at 18 years old, we could record something and here we are talking about it now. Of course, it would be lovely. But, from my point of view, I'm always concentrating on the future and really where my energies are is what comes next. And I do think about the past. I'm not saying I don't. And I do think about what did we do wrong and what could we have done in different ways, the same as anyone else. But my energies are always on what comes next rather than, for instance, wouldn't it be nice if we got more recognition for our version of Summertime? Of course, it would be nice, but I don't spend much time thinking along those lines.
Well, we're still kind of talking about something in the past in this sense, but to that point, like I remember when Breathe In, Breathe Out came out, and my father and I actually started listening to it together, and we're like, well, this is crazy because they're kind of doing all these different versions of different types of music. It's not all one kind of sound, but then you get to something like I Do Believe. And that felt like such a classic zombie song in a lot of ways that you were able to recapture. Was there any part of you that says like, well, we can do it the one time. We can recapture that sound. It's okay to do it once at least.
Well, we never consciously tried to do that. Our formula for recording was always very simple. Perhaps over simple, I don't know. We just got together a collection of the best songs we've got and we recorded them to the best of our ability. We were never trying to sound like anybody, even we're not trying to sound like ourselves particularly, other than just being natural. It was just important that we try the best we can with the songwriting and with recording. We just give 100%. And there was never any aim to recapture old zombie ideas or ideals or anybody else's ideas or ideals. We were always just trying to be us.
Is there also, though, I mean, it's weird asking it because it's clear it's obviously a great thing, but even though that you move on with different band members now, that you're like one of the few bands that got to do so many landmark things together, even up until the point when Paul passed. So just to have that great knowledge in yourself is like, we still got to do these things all together.
Well, it has been wonderful because I know there have been huge gaps. Although I've worked with Rod and Chris continuously over my whole career. But for the Zombies, there have been gaps. But as you rightly say, we've been very fortunate to every now and again get back together again, and everybody can still play. I mean, we have to be honest. We're probably moving into the autumn of our careers at the moment, if not the winter of our careers. But everyone can still play, and it's a joy when we all get together. We've toured a little bit over the last few years. I'm playing Odyssey and Oracle, and it was great. We played all around the world. And the recognition of that album is just astounding, and it's a real thrill to play with the original guys and to play that album because many of those songs we never played live. We played them in the studio, and then possibly one of the worst ways of breaking up a band. Of course, we broke up famously before the record was ever a hit, and so we never got the chance to play those tracks. So it was really exciting to get the opportunity to go out around the world and play those songs for the first time, but 60 years after we recorded them.
Yeah.
So, of course, it's such a long gap. We have to relearn the songs. People are playing talking about tracks of that album, and I'm going, what? What is that? I don't know what it is, and have to sort of relearn the songs.
Robert, I don't know if we lost you. You're just on mute. I just hope you're still there.
Okay. I'm here.
Perfect.
Bye.
Wow, that was quick. Wow.
Hey, hello.
Was it your intention also that it felt like, for people who don't know the entire story of the band, that you were trying to, I guess, deceive audiences and saying, like, maybe these guys have a rift and that's why they broke up at one point by having Colin and Rod separate at the beginning of the film and then closely getting back together and being in the interviews together? Or was that just scheduling?
Yeah, so basically, if we go back in time, I mean, the world had shut down from the COVID pandemic, and I was movies were sort of on hiatus or halted for production reasons of getting together. The guys then eventually went on tour. It was 2022. The world started coming back. Bands started touring again. And I got to meet up with, I mean, I was wearing a mask the whole interview with Colin and Rod in New York, and they couldn't really, I mean, they're trying to get comfortable with me, the director guy, and I'm all shielded from them. And we're trying to build a relationship of trust, which is hard to do in that kind of an environment. But so what we did was we rebuilt the set for She's Not There in a set in a New York stage. If you look at closely at that white sort of studio they're in, the Matrix looking environment,
Mm-hmm.
built little elements of She's Not There in there, which was kind of fun filmmaking, some themes
Yeah.
built into it. But Chris White and Hugh were overseas, so what we did was we shot with New York with Colin and Rod to get the project up on its feet, and that gave us the foundation of conversation to build on editorially. Because once you have the foundation of the story, you can then, with your editor, start to pull the pieces you need, sound bites you need, video, and you start to build the story. But I wanted to take the guys back to where Odyssey and Oracle really was born, which was at Abbey Road. Obviously, a famous studio, and we've seen footage at Abbey Road, nothing new. But to bring those guys back there, they'd never been there since making that album all together in that studio. So it was a really beautiful moment, just kind of floating around them as they're getting to talk and reconnect with each other. We were lucky enough to get access to the original recordings of Odyssey and Oracle and have that multi-track recording moment where you can break out all these different ways they made albums back then. But we were able to pick up interviews with the guys overseas that same year. But in the fall, I went to meet everyone and do another round of shooting. And also, filmmaking wise, it gives you another chance to ask questions again that you covered in the first interview, but you just didn't get enough clarity in it. So sometimes I doubled back, like Colin would, if he recalls the second interview I did with him, sometimes I double back through the same questions in New York that we did, but he might tell the story in a different kind of way, or we might have missed some little piece of the puzzle that we needed. But yeah, we had great interviews done at different times. I also got to tour with the band. My band Rooney opened up for the Zombies on tour. We did some shows together, so I got to perform with the guys before their set, and I had my camera team with me, and we would go and shoot the guys on the road. So it was a great, weird worlds colliding way of being from a band in a band with a band, making this film. So pretty cool to, like I said it earlier to Colin, but to be to love a band, to have your own that can play with them, and to be the director making a film about them. Strange worlds colliding, but really
Yeah.
satisfying.
Colin, I don't mean to kind of like hammer the point again, too, because again, I know how you feel about wanting to kind of move forward instead of looking back. But in also describing, again, going and finally playing Odyssey and Oracle in its full, or even in parts at that point, relearning it because you never got to tour it. And even now, as new music keeps coming out, to have all that available, are there parts of you that does again, though, look back and say, you know what? I kind of missed that we didn't do this song or haven't gotten to play this song. Because again, like for me, granted, I think She's Not There is one of the 10 greatest songs ever written, period. And there are so many songs that people know, but like I yearn sometimes to just sit and listen to Whenever You're Ready, Kind of Girl, stuff like that. Like that you want to kind of like, you know what? I haven't revisited that in a while. I would like to revisit those songs.
I can't think of well, funnily enough, I've just been touring with my solo band, and we played Hung Up on a Dream, which is the title of the documentary. And I really enjoyed that. And we just did it piano and voice. And all good songs will stand up piano and voice if it's a good song. And I've never sang that live, ever. The Zombies never played that. So I did really enjoy that. And yeah, there probably are other songs. None come to mind. If It Don't Work Out was one that I've talked about possibly doing. But for me, if I'm thinking about the past, I'm curious what we might have done next after Odyssey and Oracle if we kept going. To be honest, I would like to have known what we might have done. So that's my thoughts about the past. But you're right also that there are some classic zombie songs that probably have been partially, if not completely, forgotten. And it would be great to give them exposure. I'm certainly hung up in a dream, and maybe if it don't work out, I'm sure there are some others as well. I remember When I Loved Her was also another beautiful song. It would be fun to have a go at those, because the Zombies are not going to tour anymore. Rob was very ill in the summer, and he's fine now, but he's decided he's not going to tour anymore. And so, to some extent, I'm carrying the baton, or baton, perhaps I should say, for the other guys. And it would be great to keep as much of the repertoire alive as we possibly can.
I want to hear if I'm going to be selfish too, as wanting to hear something live. The song I want to hear is Whenever You're Ready, because I love that song so much.
Yes.
I'm obsessed with that song.
I love that. I've always loved that song. That song reminds, because I'm a big fan of girl groups, like 60s girl groups. Big Shirelles fan, Crystals, Shangri-Las, and I could hear that song being done in that world. It feels like such an early girls group, like Bro Building song.
Yeah.
So classic, that song.
It's a great song. I always felt, and we have played that comparatively recently. So we would have, in the last 10 years, we would have played that with the new incarnation of the Zombies. But I always felt that song was better than the record. I thought the sound on the record kind of let the song down a little bit. But you're right, it's a really good song. And it's another one, that I could consider for the future. I mean, we have to remember there's probably, 60 or 70 zombie songs there. There's a lot of songs, might be more than that. So there's plenty to go through to choose. And I'd like to choose as obscure a track as I can possibly find, I think. From the zombie repertoire, and it'll be fun going through all those songs, and of course all the memories that go with the songs, and finding some zombie tunes to do. Whenever You're Ready is a good example. Summertime, which we were talking about earlier on, taking into account that the Zombies will never play live again, maybe I should have a go at an interpretation of that.
Whatever it is, it's going to be great, and I look forward to all of it. And I'm going to have to let you guys go, but just as a statement to leave this off, and because I'm sure you get this plenty of times, and I don't like to be the person who just comes up in here and just showers praise on people. But again, I grew up. I still have the copy of my father's 45. We have the "She's Not There, Tell Her No" A/B side, and I made my father. It's destroyed basically because I made my father play it so many times for me when I was a kid. Wow. And and from that point on, it was just like there was no turning back, and I'm not trying to say like, I'm a contrarian and just say like, oh, because everybody says the Beatles, the Stones, stuff like that. Like, to me, it's when that argument comes up, maybe Procol Harum, but it's the Zombies or Procol Harum, period. That take the cake for me.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. That's great. Brilliant.
Thanks again, guys. Have a great day.
Okay,
thanks, Matthew.
After the recording of this album, the Zombies broke up.
It was really unfortunate what happened to us.
Someone was making a fortune. It certainly wasn't us.
It's a legacy left behind, and it's a legacy that will go on.